It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place.
This is a last chance saloon. Because if we don't really take the decisions that are vital now, it's going to be almost impossible to catch up.
We will end the moratorium on extracting our huge reserves of shale, which could get gas flowing as soon as 6 months. We'll give way.
If unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Zero carbon.
East Talk. Hello and welcome to Zero Carbon Easter. I was about to say it's a kind of a special edition. It's sort of, almost like a Christmas message, Dale, isn't it, really, in some respects? I know you love Christmas very much indeed, but we thought rather than just legging it at the end of the series, it's worth just having a brief chinwag now to talk about the year we've just had and what's coming up as well, because we ain't going nowhere.
No, we ain't. In fact, we're coming back, so we're probably going somewhere because we have to in order to come back. But yeah,
that's very true. I mean, in any other world, that would just be pedantry, wouldn't it? But it turns out to be an actually brilliant, almost Jung-like observation. I like it.
I think that's my world to some people, pedantry.
I love it. So let's just think about the year we've had, because if last year, because we've been doing this a few years now, if last year somebody had said, right, you're going to have 3 prime ministers, they're going to piss around on windmills, there'll be fracking, then there won't be fracking, then there will be fracking, then there won't be fracking. Somebody had explained this, coal mines opening, all that goes with that. You'd have, even by the standards of this crazy government, we'd have thought they'd lost their shizzle, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and it went further, didn't it? We had that month of trust and the 45 billion tax giveaway funded by borrowings, the IMF throwing
It's $1 billion a day, isn't it, that she was in office?
It cost us a lot of money, and the international money markets just threw their hands up in the air and disowned us, didn't they? And crashed our economy, in effect, the pound.
Yeah, even arch capitalists were going,
that's right.
Isn't really what we had in mind.
That's right. That was so funny. And as you say, a series of U-turns on fracking, on wind, on solar. I mean, U-turn after U-turn after U-turn, just adding up to policy donuts, right? Round and round we went.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you sense that, because it started out as a crock of shit, it became a crock of shit. For many, it continues to be just that. Are there any scintillas of light with this government when you consider, so the fracking thing has gone, onshore wind kind of returns. I know we've got this coal mine thing monkeying around in the middle here, but what's your broad assessment of the direction of travel of Rishi Sunak's government?
I think he's screwed. I think he's walking a tightrope. He's walking a tightrope between the left and the right of his party. The coal mine was the gift to the right to say, look, we can still stick 2 fingers up to the climate lobby. We'll have a new coal mine. Thank you very much. He knows it won't get built. And the bringing back the wind was the same thing for the left of the pie, saying, look, we'll stick 2 fingers up to those fossil fools, and we'll bring back onshore wind with some really major caveats, like where communities will allow it. Neither of these things is going to change anything. Onshore wind isn't coming back, and that coal mine won't get built. And this is Rishi Sunak's balancing act now up until the next election. And I think basically, he's screwed. He can't make decisions. His party is at war with itself, and so he'll never do anything. Johnson never did anything.
So you think onshore wind you don't think will happen?
I don't think it's coming back. I think it's presentational. It's just politics, talking about it. But this huge caveat of community support, which is what actually Liz Truss said about fracking. And, we know that's a really challenging thing to define. They haven't even tried to define it yet. They're going to have a consultation. They're going to take their time about it. I think it's BS, It's just internal Conservative Party politics.
Well, I was just going to say that there are some other areas that aren't necessarily down to the government itself, but maybe down to local government or local authorities, whether it's London, Manchester, wherever it happens to be, where there are other initiatives taking place. I mean, if you look at the kind of whole cycling thing, which is massive now, I know it's broadly a London thing, but it is happening elsewhere. If you look at ULEZ charges where, those gas guzzling cars can essentially f*** off, you ain't coming in here, it's going to cost you if you want to drive that beast around. I know that's not the perfect way to run a scheme. However, there's a lot of that happening. So it's not as if green has totally abandoned by everyone, even if it's not down to Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, it's true. But we really need the big picture to move, don't we? Which only government can do. We need onshore wind and solar because between them, they can drive us to 100% green on the grid in less than a decade. We can bring real economic growth in the way that Liz Truss thought she could get with tax breaks for the rich. We can get that with investment in green tech. We're going to release a whole series of figures in January. We've been doing a lot of research about that. And so these are essential, not just to fight the climate crisis, getting in energy independent, but also to our economy. And this is a new way to look at green stuff that we're going to major on next year. This big overlap between the old form of green money and the new form of green environment. There's a massive overlap now.
Yeah, I was just about to raise that point. So from this podcast perspective, we'll be recording a lot of episodes next year. What do you see as that kind of salient theme that we will keep hammering home?
Economics. We're going to shift the argument from the environment to economics when it comes to renewable energy and actually all of the green things that we need to do. There's an economic case for just about everything and a uneconomic case for doing things the way we're doing them now. So we'll have a shift of focus. It's kind of a version of our green populism, that idea of speaking to people in a different way. We're going to talk about renewable energy, green stuff, green crap, as Cameron liked to call it. We're going to talk about it in a different way, in an economic way.
Fantastic. Before we finish and you sing the first Noel, which I know you like to do, Dale, it is just worth mentioning that you got a kind of sort of a telling off from Ben, who emailed.
Yeah, he did.
This was about, he says, I'm listening to your podcast, couldn't believe what I was hearing regarding B corporations. Given your views on government's performance regarding the environment being far below average, to put it mildly, I would have thought that you would have been a champion of any method that encourages businesses to care about anything else other than profit. It felt to me as if you gave B Corps the same treatment as you give new coal mines or oil refineries. The reason for B is be the change.
Yes, that was
Is that right?
Well, apparently. I mean, I may have heard that before, but forgot it because I think it's a little bit cheesy, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, he did give me a telling off there. But I think he overlooked the fact that we use humor on this podcast. We have a bit of a laugh.
Sorry about that, Ben.
We're having a laugh.
You miserable bastard.
and everything I said about B Corp, I stand by. It's like it's like, oh, what are you going to do? I want to say this anyway. Look, it's not the be all and end all, Ben. And,
hey, there you go.
As Shakespeare once kind of pondered, to be core or not to be core. Well, we had that.
Oh God, they're just flowing out on this final moment, aren't they, this evening? I know Christmas is very special to you. It's you're in the church in the morning, then you ride naked through the streets of the West Country on a donkey, usually for a couple of hours before returning for a nut roast. Is that right?
Nut roast, yeah. I'm glad it didn't involve a turkey anyway, so I can live with the rest of it.
Brilliant. Have a cracking break, Dale.
Yeah.
We'll speak in 2023.
Yeah, have a cracking break too, Ian. And for everybody listening as well, have a great holiday and see you all in the new year.
Indeed. That was just a very short episode, just so you knew we hadn't just legged it for the hills without saying goodbye or giving you a reason to tune in for 2023. Don't forget, of course, to follow this podcast from your podcast provider so that you get each new episode automatically. Leave a review there too. And make sure you follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince, and on Insta and TikTok too. We'll see you in 2023.
Zero carbon.
East of.